Hi, friends. Welcome, welcome, welcome back to the Shea Report. Thank you all so much for joining me live here. Feel free to leave some comments and questions because today's Shea Report, we're going to be talking about property taxes. So I mentioned to you that I was going to have my second meeting today in a different county. I'm making my rounds trying to educate people on elimination of property taxes here in the state of Florida. We are all working very diligently because that is something that all of us taxpayers and people that have homes really want for ourselves. So I wanted to come on here, even if you do not live in the state of Florida, there are other states that are actually working towards this and wanting to do this and been talking about it and actually had it on their ballot in the past. One of them being Michigan. I have had Miss Carla Wagner from Michigan here on the Shea Report. We've had a few chats. You can go back to find those videos. And she's actually running for governor in the state of Michigan. And I hope she wins. She is an amazing person. And I hope to have her back on the Shea Report very soon in 2026 to talk about her journey and a little more about property taxes. So, like I had mentioned, here in the state of Florida, Governor DeSantis is working hard to eliminate property taxes. And actually, one of the videos, actually a couple of videos that had went viral on this channel, like tens and tens of thousands of views, were actually about property tax elimination. So I just had to say, a lot of people have been thinking about it. So anyway, I wanted to hop on here and talk about the proper tax elimination and go into some details because a lot of people wonder, how can that happen? How can this be? So here in the state of Florida, Governor DeSantis implemented his own version of DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency here in the state of Florida, and he hired Chief Financial Officer Blaze Angola to go around to different cities and counties and do some deep digging into the financial aspects of taxes and how our government officials are using our money locally. Okay, so that is one thing that I wanted to share with you all. I'm going to play a couple videos because a question that comes up a lot with people is, how are we going to pay for this? How are we going to pay for that? So first things first, so what I wanted to say to you is that you need to get that out of your mind. Okay, we have all been gaslit to think that we have to be taxed to death in order for the government or for things or the system to go on. Okay. And that is not true. And I'm going to show you some numbers just in 8 different places here in Florida. There are currently 67. Well, currently there are 67 counties. Hopefully I said that right. 67 counties in the state of Florida. And Blaze Angola has gone through quite a few, combinations of cities and counties, a total of 8, which includes cities in those counties. And the amount of money that he has come up with that the counties are excessively spending the taxpayers' money, just wasteful spending, has now been to over 100 or over 1.5 billion dollars. Okay, so one of the things I wanted to say, from 2019 to now, the local collection of property taxes in the state of Florida has gone up. I think it was like $24 billion. Okay. So mind you, I said he's been through 8 places right now, and altogether he has collected wasteful spending $1.5 billion. Okay. So I'm going to play this video for you. Governor DeSantis, he hopped on to Fox one day and was talking to a gentleman. And I'm going to play this for you just so that you can see this for yourself, because I thought that it was very interesting, because a lot of people are very curious about how this is going to happen, what's going to happen. How can this basically take place? And I can totally understand, if you've always paid property taxes in your home, you're probably thinking, how can that possibly happen? And we're hoping the state of Florida is the first place to pave the way. And then I will hop on and say something about this very soon. So let me get this on here for you so that you can see. All right.
Lawmakers in Florida just advanced plans to reduce property taxes for homeowners. If things keep moving forward, voters could see it on the ballot in 2026, in November 2026. With me now is the governor of Florida, Ron DeSantis. Governor, welcome to the program.
It's good to be here. A little colder than Florida. That's okay.
Yeah, sorry about that. How much would you be able to cut property taxes by? And when you've made the cut, How do you pay for local services?
Well, it's a good question. But first, let's just point out people are being pinched across the economy in a lot of things. And property taxes, even though and it's all local in Florida, we don't get any at the state level. We've tripled our rainy day funds up because we cut taxes. We have no income tax. We're doing fine at the state. But the local property taxes are hurting people. 2019 in Florida, the total amount of revenue for local government, $32 billion from property tax. You know what it is now? $56 billion. That's a massive increase. So people are paying more. So the issue is we're going to focus on Florida homesteaded residents. Now, that's a fraction of that revenue. And honestly, you would still have way more revenue than you had in 2019. We're working through exactly how that's going to work. Of course, we're going to make sure we have fire, police, and all the core things. But the reality is these local governments have overspent and people are paying more and more for that. And at some point, it's like, when is enough enough? Well, here's what I know.
You've got to get a lot of pushback from the local people.
Taxpayers were getting a lot of support. I mean, like, this is something that people have been asking about. But think about it. Can you have a situation where every 5 or 6 years you're increasing budgets 50, 60%? Now, part of it was we did have a boom with COVID. Everyone was rushing to Florida, caused property values to go up. But how is it that you buy a home for $350,000 and then 4 years later they tell you it's worth $1 million and you got to pay more in property tax? It's not right.
I understand, but how much? By how much can you cut property taxes?
Well, our
20%,
goal, so
10%.
Well, no. Our goal is to focus on Florida homesteaded residents and eliminate for them, which is, the majority of our revenue for property tax is non-Florida residents because people have second homes, you have people that buy it, and commercial property. So it ends up being about 30% of the revenue. Now, you may have to phase it in. There's going to be things we're going to do. We're sensitive to all that. I want something that can work, and I want something that can pass. And you need 60% of the voters to pass it.
But if you've got a home and it's homesteaded, you're going to eliminate the property tax on that home?
That's the goal, yeah.
You eliminate it completely.
Exactly.
I've got a homestead.
Okay, so there you go. There you go. Ron DeSantis talking about how he is planning to implement the elimination of property taxes. However, I want to say a couple different things. Ron DeSantis himself cannot write bills, okay? So he is definitely relying on the legislators to come up with these things. And currently, right now, there are 13 different bills. I think 5 in the Florida Senate and 8 in the House. I could be vice versa. I have to look into that. But either way, there's 13 of them. Okay. And they're very, 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 very sneaky bills. And I have to say that because they know what they're doing. Okay. These legislators know exactly what they're doing because all of this property taxes that are coming through, all the surplus and extra things that are coming through, all the money and coming through, they're either pocketing it or they're using it for something other than what we are paying them for, okay? So I wanted to throw that out there now. So think about it, 13 different bills, okay? 13 different bills that are supposed to be voted upon, 13 different things, okay? So it's supposed to be on the ballot next year, next November 2026 for it to be voted on. So think about it. If you have like 13 different bills out there, okay, and they all say different things, none of them, by the way, say elimination of property taxes. They're all a reduction, or you have to be a certain age, or if you make this amount of money, 13 different things, okay? None of them say elimination of property taxes. They're being very, 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 very sneaky. Okay. So the reason that I am saying that is because when you have a multiple choice, okay, so let's say you have a multiple choice thing and you have to get 60% of the vote. So you have A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Keep going. All right. So different people are going to be like, okay, so I'm already confused about these amendments and things that are on the ballot, because in order to change this, it has to be a constitutional amendment, right? So if you have A, B, C, D, E, F, G on the ballot, everybody's going to be doing different things. So then you're not going to get 60% of the vote, hence where the sneakiness is coming from. And a lot of these places that CFO Blazengola went into, a lot of them actually Republican ran counties and cities. Okay. So we can't just say this is all one-sided. It's both liberals, left wing and right, both Democrat and Republicans, okay? And they're spending the most money. All of them are spending the most money and pocketing it. You would be so amazed the amount of money that is going towards DEI, NGOs, nonprofits, all of these things, okay? That are not going towards what the taxpayers are putting into. So the thing that I am extremely annoyed about is that when we have things arise in our life, let's say we have inflation or whatever, things go up, we have to adjust our budgets, right, to fit our needs and live within our needs. But when we want the government to live within our means, okay, the taxpayers are like, oh, we can't do this, we can't eliminate this. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. First things first is the money that is going from property taxes, or the money that you are receiving from taxes, no matter what it's from. The first thing you need to do is make sure that you are putting the local needs first, police, fire, whatever it may be. Those necessities, those necessary things for safety and what the taxpayers want, public services, those funds that you're getting from taxes, those need to be met first, okay? Not going towards creating DEI program and doing research on gingerbread persons and this kind of thing and the alphabet community and all this other kind of stuff. We don't need that, okay? We don't need all of this stuff. We need to make sure that our necessities are paid for first. That's what we're paying for, okay? And then also, I think if these people are not abiding by what we want, they need to be kicked out. Maybe cut their salaries, okay? What is the average American, average Floridian making here in the state, okay? Maybe we need to cut it by half, maybe even a quarter when they become really real public servants then, okay? All right, so I'm going to share with you something that is so interesting. Blaise Ngola, he's been traveling through, and I wanted to share this with you because it is amazing. A lot of people, and it bothers me, and I try not to get worked up when people are like, well, how are we going to pay for things? Okay, so I'm going to add this on here and share this with you because it's definitely needed. Blaise Ngola, he went through different counties and cities, and I want you to listen to the amount of money that he found from these places that they were wasting taxpayer funds. Okay. All right. Back here. And then I will stop as we go and make some comments. All right, here we go.
Welcome to Facing South Florida. I'm Jim DeFede. On September 30th, the state's new chief financial officer, Blaise Ngola, held a press conference in Pembroke Pines in which he made a stunning announcement. He said his team had conducted a high-level spending comparison and audit of Broward County government, and the results, well, they were not good.
We increase the budget every year for inflation and population, and then got to a number of where the budget should be today if you increased it just by inflation and just by population. Then what we did on top of that is that large government budgets such as Broward are very inefficient. The larger they get, the more inefficient they become. So what we did is we added not one, but two buffers on top of that. And then we got to the number. That's the number where the budget probably should be or could be. And once you calculate that, you will start seeing that Broward County has added an extra $190 million in excessive, wasteful spending in its general fund budget.
$190 million is a truly staggering figure. Now, the Broward audit was just one of several announcements he's made in recent weeks. He kicked off his tour in Jacksonville in mid-September.
The city of Jacksonville is overtaxing and overspending your money to the tune of almost $200 million.
Okay, so this is the city of Jacksonville. Okay, my mom lived there in her senior year, or actually after she graduated. $200 million. $200 million. Think about that. Excessive waste. And then people have to say, well, How are we going to pave roads? What's going to happen to our police? Okay, let me continue.
A week later, he was in Hillsborough County.
Our numbers reveal that Hillsborough County is excessively spending to the tune of $278 million.
The next day, it was Alachua County.
In Alachua County, there is about $84 million worth of wasteful spending.
And here he was in Seminole County on October 7th.
Seminole County blew past that number. In our estimation, $48,445,891.
And in Manatee County on October 16th,
they blew past that number by $112 million.
But by the time he made it to Miami last week, he started working a little humor into his routine.
You know, it's
Okay. So I pinned this comment here because I thought it was very important. And the person that put that there, I would like to know a little more about this. If you could leave a website or something of that sort. It says in Florida, there is the Citizens Initiative designed to let the public put a bill to the vote, even constitution amendment change. There are enough knowledgeable process people to write. Okay, I love that you put that comment out there. I would like to dive deeper into that, definitely, especially since I am making my rounds around Florida to educate people about calling our elected public servants and saying we need one thing on the ballot, elimination of property taxes, yes or no. Okay, no funny talk, no confusing people, nothing like that. All right, let me continue. Now, Miami is going to be a lot. Miami-Dade County is going to blow the socks off of your feet if you're wearing socks. Okay, crazy.
starting to get to the point where I show up in a local government and everyone starts to wonder, why is he here? In fact, I think one of my friends said I'm starting to turn into the Jim Cantori of wasteful spending. So when we show up, it's usually not good news. And unfortunately today, I'm here to share some sobering news about the spending that has been going on in the city of Miami.
And so how much did Miami's budget increase above what he calculated was an acceptable amount?
The city of Miami blew past that number by $94 million. That math doesn't math. It doesn't make sense.
What if I could build my ideal hiring app?
Okay, so I'm going to let that commercial play through there. Let me remove this as of right now. Okay, so until the citizens make themselves aware, yes, very true. Very, very, very true. Okay, so I wanted to, let me do this really quickly. Talk more about that because, like I said, it is purely amazing in a not good way. The amount of money. Okay, let me continue. Let me put this back here for you at this stage. Okay, let's go back and to finish this.
On Thursday, he hit Miami-Dade County.
I'm here to tell the people, the great people of Miami-Dade, how much their local government has overspent and overtaxed them. And that number in Miami-Dade is $302 million.
The gasps are my favorite part. During the press conference,
I gasped too whenever I read that because the average salary for Floridians, okay, depending on where you live, okay, can be anywhere upward to, let's just go highball it, $66,000 a year, okay?
he summed up his efforts this way.
Now, so far, as we are doing this, we have done these calculations and these presentations on 8 local governments. And I wish I could say I was proud to say the total is $1.2 billion. It is unfortunate that that total is $1.2 billion that we have found in just 8 local governments.
Again, he refers to these reviews as high-level spending comparisons and audits. And it's important to remember that Ngalia only became the CFO on July 21st. So the notion that you could conduct even one legitimate, high-level, comprehensive government audit in that amount of time, let alone 7 or 8 or 9, seems doubtful. And if you are wondering why he was standing in front of a podium.
Okay, one of the things I want to say about Miami, the average annual salary a year can be $55,000 a year. If you're like, let's say you're in tech or something legal or something like that, more higher end jobs, you can make 6 figures. Okay. So think about that. That is insane. Insane how much they are overspending your money. And you have to think of it as being your money. Okay. Thank you very much for that. Can do a search for Florida ballot initiative process requirements. Thank you very much. I will definitely do that. Okay. So anyway, the amount, you have to think of it as being your money. Okay. Because people think of it in an abstract way. Okay. Like, oh, they're wasting $300 million. Okay. Where do you think that $300 million is coming from? It's not coming from the government. It's not coming from the state of Florida. Okay. Florida politicians are not going outside digging ditches and installing irrigation or installing roofs or decorating houses or baking cookies for their bakery. No, that money is coming from your paycheck. Okay. So you have to think of it that way and stop your mind from thinking, well, what about this? What about that? Because what you have is a slave mentality. And I'm saying this out of care for all of us, okay? Not just Floridians, but people may be researching this for their own state. But if you're here in Florida, remember, don't let them gaslight you and say, we need that money, okay? Because Blaze is actually getting ready to say that they did the research and added in for growth, inflation, all of the things, the growth specifically, like when more people come in, yes, you need more firemen. Yes, you need more police officers, all the things. So he's getting ready to say this. So when you present this in your county, no matter what county you are in, Floridians or people, other places that you may be, when you go to present this before your representatives, okay, you basically want to say, no, Blaze Angola, he has the numbers, he figured in all of it, all the inflation, extra people, growth, all the things. And we have the numbers, and yes, it can be done. All right, so I'm going to continue this for a little bit longer because it's good stuff.
With the word FAFO on it, that's the name of the group he created to conduct these reviews. The Florida Agency for Fiscal Oversight, or FAFO, F-A-F-O, which for those of you who don't know, is a slang term adopted recently by right-wing politicians led by President Donald Trump, which means, well, F around and find out. But let's set that aside. And look, I want to be clear. I'm sure there is wasteful spending in these governments, but I'm not sure the quote-unquote formula he has come up with is the right way to determine it. And perhaps more troubling, even though they held all these press conferences and made these sensational claims, they have not produced a single document, a single report showing what numbers they have been using or if their math is correct. And when I tried to look deeper into his claims that there was $190 million in wasteful spending in Broward this year, well, to use his own words, the math is not mathing. In a moment, I'm going to play for you part of an interview I did with Ngalia almost 3 weeks ago. I've been holding it because I wanted him and his office to provide more information to support his claims. I sent them the findings of my review and asked them to comment on it.
Okay, so I applaud this gentleman for doing his research and all the things and not taking Blaze's word for it. I took his word for it because I live in Florida. I'm pretty sure, I think he lives down south in Miami. Okay, I live here in Florida. I can see things. I'm a native here, and I know that they're spending wastefully and spending our money and wasting it away. And me doing the research for elimination of property taxes, I've seen so much. So I believe it. Okay. So Blaze is going to prove his point.
But they haven't responded to any of the specific problems I think I've uncovered. So here's the first part of my interview with Ngalia, where I start by asking him to define wasteful spending.
What I would consider wasteful and excessive spending is any use of taxpayer dollars that are over and above what is actually needed to deliver the services to the taxpayers. And those are some of the eye-popping numbers that you're seeing specifically in Broward. $190 million of wasteful and excessive spending just this year alone.
You arrived at that number through basic calculations. You took the general fund, you took the inflation, you took population growth, and then you gave, I think it was, is it a total of 15%?
And that's one thing he mentioned about the general fund. A lot of people don't know how things are paid for here in the state of Florida or in your state in general. Okay, you have the general funds, okay, when people start talking about roads and all the things like that. So just remember, educate yourself on how bills are paid with our money, okay? There's general funds, and then there's the gas tax, which pays for our roads and potholes and all the things. So things like that, you really, really need to dig deeper into. I've been doing a lot of math lately about the sales tax and how many people have visited in the year 2024, just alone in the state of Florida. I mean, it is massive. We were the top. There's always so many people flooding this state. And that's another thing that I want you guys to remember if you're a Floridian, okay? So we have more people coming here, right? And they're continuing raising the property taxes. Like the property taxes here where I live, okay, has increased drastically, right? And I have no intention on selling this house at all. I really like this house a lot. Very grateful for it. So where's all this extra money going towards, okay? Where's all these extra funds? Okay, so you heard the Governor DeSantis mention that the property taxes, local property taxes have increased. I think it was $24 billion. Okay, where's all this extra money going to? What are you doing with this? All right, so I'm going to play a little bit more, and we're going to talk a little more.
Cushion on top of that?
Yeah, it's a 5% and a 10% cushion. It doesn't work out to exactly 15% the way it's calculated, but there is a government inefficiency cushion that we factor in there. You know, trying to give extra money to the government in their calculations just to prove just how bad the excessive and wasteful spending is. But yes, you are correct. We started off with the 2019-2020 budget. We indexed forward for inflation and population, including not one, but two government inefficiency buffers. And then we figured out what the budget should have been under normal circumstances today. But then they took all the excessive revenue and they spent it. And that's where we're coming up with the 190 million.
So it's purely a number. It's not, you have not evaluated how.
Okay. So it's enough of the pudgy man talking to him about and being skeptical. Okay. So anyway, that wasn't very nice. But anyway, it's time for me to go to bed very early tonight. I've been talking so much. So anything irritates me when people are not like on board and using their mind. Like, okay, we need to eliminate property taxes. What's your point? Why are you so against it? Is someone paying you? Anyway. So with that being said, okay, so there's a lot to eliminating property taxes. Yes, it can be done. I believe in Governor DeSantis. However, he is not the one that is making the legislation. We have to press and push a lot of emphasis and force our legislators to write a simple amendment, a simple phrase for the 2026 ballot. If you are in the state of Florida, leave a comment. Let me know. I am going to, once this video is over, I'm going to leave a link so you can find your representative. There are a few key people that you definitely need to contact and email and say, hey, one simple sentence, elimination property taxes, yes or no, not these 13 other things that you guys are creating and making up. That is not going to work for us. We, the people of Florida, have spoken. We want property taxes eliminated. Yes, it can be done. If we have to tighten our belts, so do you. Look at all of this excessive spending that you're wasting of our money. Okay, even in Jacksonville, there is the mayor there, I believe it was. I'll have to look for it probably in the next video or something for you guys when we continue talking about this subject. But she had at the airport, a welcome center, a full-size version of herself on like this video screen. And they spent, I don't know how much money on that for her to welcome you to the airport. Okay. You know what? We don't need to spend that kind of money at the airport with you. Welcome them on there in some video. Okay. That's excessive spending. Okay, if you want to have a sign there that says welcome to Jacksonville or welcome to what other airport, Orlando Airport, Tampa Airport, you can have that there, but you don't need to have the mayor this video and spend excessive money to have someone welcome to the state of Florida. In fact, there's too many people here in Florida, by the way. So anyway, thank you all so much for listening to my rants about eliminating a property taxes. In the meantime, be sure to like, share, subscribe, comment, all the things, share mostly to get this video out in the algorithm, because more people need to see that we need to eliminate property taxes all over America. But since I am in Florida, we need to get the message out. All right. Thank you all so much for being here, and I will see you all in the next video.